Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today's video is going to be a weekly review of the Atlanta Braves, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about on this week's weekly Braves review. Of course, they're off now until Friday because of the All-Star break, and things may get ugly for the Braves, and I mean ugly, right after the All-Star break because they're back in action on Friday, and they start the second half of the season against the Rays and the Padres, who are two excellent baseball teams. As you know, week before last, the Braves went 4-2, and I said if they could go 4-2 again this past week, they would get above 500 for the first time all year long, and they did not do that. They went 3-3 because they lost yesterday to the Marlins by the score of 7-4. And I thought it was going to be worse than a 3-3 week, to be honest with you. I really did, because they lost to the Pirates on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, Drew Smyly gave up 3 runs in the first inning. And I thought, man, you just came off your best week of the year. You took 2 out of 3 from the Mets, and now you're going to turn around and get swept by the Pirates. But after the first inning, Drew Smyly settled way down, and the Braves went on to win 14-3 on Wednesday. And of course, they were off Thursday, and then they beat the Marlins on Friday and beat the Marlins again on Saturday before losing yesterday. So it was a 3-3 week. So the Braves enter the All-Star break with a record of 44 wins and 45 losses. I believe after the win Saturday was about the 5th time this year that the Braves have made it to 500. But every time they get to 500, they lose. So they just cannot get above 500. Dennis Green, the late, great NFL coach, said, "You are what your record says you are." And right now, what the Braves are is a 500 baseball team. They're third place in the East, half a game behind the Phillies for second place, because the Phillies are at 500 at 44-44, and the Braves are still within striking distance of the Mets, because the Mets just had a struggling 4-game series with the Pirates. So the Braves are actually only 4 games out of first place, as bad as they have played. But Ronald Acuna, who has by far been their most consistent player all year long, is out for the season. And now it's looking like another pitcher, Ian Anderson, is going to be out for the season. They have not said that, but Brian Snitker said that Ian's shoulder would be examined during the All-Star break, because he had another rough start yesterday, only went 2 1/3 innings, and now over his last 2 starts, a combined 7 1/3 innings, he's walked 8 batters. So he's walking more than a batter an inning. His velocity is right at about the same, but he's struggling mightily with the location. He says his shoulder is hurting a little bit, but he thinks it's just from general fatigue, because as we know, last year baseball didn't start until July, and his career high in innings pitched is 135. And so far this year, he's pitched 96 innings, so he is on pace to pitch right around 160 innings, which would by far be his career high. So he says his shoulder only hurts a little, but he thinks it's just from general fatigue. But Brian Snitker says he anticipates him going on the injured list, but he did not say whether it would be for 10 days or a month or for the season. But the way the Braves' luck has gone this year, I'm going to go ahead and say he's out for the season. So if he is, and now they've lost Acuna, and of course we know their catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, is not coming back until at least August, but I don't think he'll be back this year. They even sent down William Contreras the other day, who had taken the place of d'Arnaud and hit the ball pretty good for a while, but his batting average had fell to like 190, so they called up Jonathan Lucroy. So their two catchers right now are Lucroy, who is 35 years old, which is not old, but that's old in Major League Baseball for a catcher, and Kevin Smith. And Kevin Smith has pretty much became Charlie Morton's regular catcher because they played together in Tampa Bay, but Kevin Smith can't hit either, so you don't have a catcher. And now with Acuna being out for the year, you really don't have a right fielder because Adrianza can't hit, and Almonte can't hit, and Inciarte can't hit. So I'm hoping the Braves just call up Drew Waters and teach him to play right field and put him in right field, or put him in left field and move Arcia to right field, because Adrianza shouldn't be playing, and Almonte shouldn't be playing, and Inciarte shouldn't be playing. And now if Ian Anderson is out for the year, you've got a problem in your rotation because Soroka is out for the year. And we've already seen Bryce Wilson pitch, and we know he's no good. We've seen Kyle Wright pitch, and we know he's no good. We've seen Touki Toussaint pitch, and we know he's no good. And they sent Sean Newcomb back down to the minor leagues about 2 weeks ago because he's no good. He's averaging more than a walk per inning. But if you gave me the option right now of Sean Newcomb or Kyle Wright or Bryce Wilson or Touki Toussaint, I would pick Sean Newcomb. So the Braves right now in their starting rotation are in desperation mode. They need to make a trade over the All-Star break. They can't wait because right now they only have 4 starting pitchers. And Charlie Morton is the only right-handed starting pitcher they have, because Max Fried and Drew Smyly and Kyle Muller are all left-handed. So if Sean Newcomb gets another turn in the rotation, the Braves will have 4 left-handed starters, but we know Tucker Davidson's also out for the year, so you can't call him back up. So the Braves are down to 4 starting pitchers. So if they don't make a trade during the All-Star break, then right after the All-Star break, we're either going to see Wilson or Wright or Toussaint or Newcomb. Of course, Ian just got hurt yesterday, so there's been no word yet on what will happen because they have until Friday when the second half starts. But, you know, this day and time, Major League Baseball, you're not going to play with 4 starting pitchers. So they'll have to do something over the All-Star break or start the second half with Wilson, Wright, Toussaint, or Newcomb, unless they're going to take Josh Tomlin out of the bullpen and put him back in the rotation. His ERA is almost 6, so I don't think that's a very good idea. Now, of course, they also have Luke Jackson in the bullpen, and Luke Jackson was a starter with Gwinnett, and he may do a good job now, but the only problem there would be he's been your most consistent reliever all year long. His ERA is right around 1.5. So if you take him out of the bullpen and put him in the rotation, then you're hurting your terrible bullpen even worse, because he's been the most consistent, most reliable reliever all year long. About 3 weeks ago, he had back-to-back outings where he gave up 2 runs one night and 1 run one night. But outside of that, he's been remarkable this year. So as good as he's been, it looks like he's finally becoming comfortable with going from being a starter in the minor leagues to being a reliever in the major leagues. You don't want to mess him up and put him back in the rotation, even though the Braves do need it, because he's been really good in the terrible, terrible bullpen that they have. So all we can do right now as Braves fans is just keep checking in with the Braves social media all this week up until Friday when the second half starts, and find out if they're going to make a trade or maybe sign a free agent, because otherwise it's going to have to be Newcomb or Wilson or Wright or Toussaint. And like I said, if I had to pick one of those guys, I would pick Newcomb. Newcomb has been a starter. None of those 4 guys have been consistent, but out of those 4 guys, Newcomb has been the most consistent out of those 4 guys. Newcomb can give you a good start every now and then, but here I was about a month or so ago talking about taking Drew Smyly out of the rotation because he had been so bad. But now with Anderson being hurt and Davidson being hurt and Soroka officially being out for the year, Drew Smyly has to stay in the rotation because you don't have anybody else. But Drew Smyly has actually gotten better as the season has progressed. So hopefully now, when it's just Smyly and Morton and Fried and Muller, hopefully Drew Smyly will continue to pitch the way he's pitched over his last 5 or 6 starts and not pitch the way he pitched in April and May because he was just flat out awful. And I think he knew his days in the rotation were numbered, and he turned it on, and he's pitching really good right now. So if you're a Braves fan, you have any ideas as to what you think they could do, please feel free to let me know, because I know in the minor leagues their rotation is the guys I just mentioned, and none of them are any good. Not to mention Toussaint got hurt back in March and went on the 60-day injured list, and he hasn't been off of that long. So I'm not positive that Touki Toussaint is 100%, but of course he's so terrible anyway you never know the difference. His ERA for his career is almost 6. So whether he's hurt or not, he's still going to suck. So it really isn't going to matter. But it is desperation time for the Braves as far as the rotation, and desperation time for the Braves as far as right field, because Acuna got hurt in the game Saturday night, and the Braves came out right after the game and said he was done for the year. So they're going to have to find him somebody, and I hate it, not just because of how good he is for the game and for the Braves, but since they called up Orlando Arcia in left field, he was actually hitting pretty good, and Heredia has done a pretty good job in center. So it looked like the Braves had finally gotten their outfield set with Arcia in left and Heredia in center and Acuna in right. And then Acuna got hurt in a freak accident on Saturday night. But not only that, Freddie Freeman is now on fire at the plate. You know, I've been saying all year long he was a slow starter. His batting average is up now to almost 275, and he's all of a sudden on pace for 35-plus home runs and 90-plus RBIs. Austin Riley is getting hot again. Dansby Swanson's finally getting hot again, and Arcia was doing a pretty good job. So I was excited about the second half, and then back-to-back days, Saturday, Acuna gets hurt, and Sunday, Ian Anderson gets hurt, if you want to call it gets hurt, because he pitched. He didn't leave the game with an injury, but after the game, the Braves said they would examine his shoulder during the All-Star break. But Brian Snitker said he anticipates him going on the injured list. But he did not say for how long. Let's hope it's just 10 days. But even if it is 10 days, they're still going to have to call up a starter for those 10 days, which would be 2 starts. But they may not really say what they're going to do until they find out how long Ian is going to be out. Because if he is out for only 10 days, which is 2 starts, then they will call up Toussaint or Wilson or Wright for those 2 starts. But if he's out for the year, then they'll have to go out and make a trade, because those guys are not going to get them through the second half of the season. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, the Braves are 44-45, 1 game below 500, still have not been above 500 the entire season, but only 4 games out of first place in the National League East. So they're still within striking distance, but it's going to be hard because they start the second half Friday night against the Rays, and then they play the Padres, 2 excellent baseball teams back-to-back. So they better hurry up over the next 4 days and get their ducks in a row. But after the Rays and Padres, they play the Phillies, and the Phillies are pretty much right there where the Braves are. They're just a 500 baseball team. So I'm not going to give up yet, but if the Braves don't find a right fielder or don't find a starting pitcher over the All-Star break, then I'll officially have to throw in the towel and say it's just not the Braves' year, because every time they start playing good, something like this happens. But maybe they'll surprise me and go out and make a trade or sign a free agent to get them through the rest of the year, because they need so much help right now. I really don't want to see them trade a lot of their prospects because we know the Braves have had supposedly a really good minor league system for 5 or 6 years now, but they've traded so many of them away, and so many of them are still in the minor leagues, and I'm not so sure that they're as good as they're supposed to be. But supposedly they have a really good farm system, and if you start trading away your farm system to get guys for a 2 or 3 month rental, then all you're doing is hurting yourself in the long run. So we'll sit back and see what happens over the next 4 days. And the second half of the season starts Friday night against the Tampa Bay Rays. We've got to get a dad joke in here because talking about the Braves is depressing. How do you make a handkerchief dance? You put a little boogie in it. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.